So, Marcus, you're sitting next to a small film set. Where are we?
This is bedroom, and this is the bedroom that I attempted to experience Lucy's experiences. And Lucy, at the time, was 14, and everything happens within this bedroom.
So this represents something about her past, but you also shoot in a real bedroom and in a bedroom-sized film set too.
Uncertainty is a huge factor in her experiences. Not just uncertainty of things out in the world, but uncertainty of material matter, uncertainty of who she is, what the past is. The past doesn't actually even exist. So that sense of fluidity of things, we're trying to represent between these three different realms, the model realm, the set realm, and the real realm.
So the environment in which you shoot the story actually symbolizes the sort of fluidity and shape-shifting of her memory and imagination.
Trying to get close to the doubt that's ever present in these experiences for her. That's the main priority, really. And not just give me that sense of doubt, but also the audience watching this film.
Lucy is, of the 5 directors, the only female director, and also the youngest. There's quite a large age gap between you performing her and the generation you're from, and Lucy now being 18, but describing experiences she had some 5 years ago. How has that felt for you, having to perform the role of somebody who couldn't be more different?
I started talking to Lucy maybe a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. And we had many, many conversations. And not once actually did it come up that this was sort of a bridge that we needed to cross somehow. We were just 2 adults talking about these experiences. And I think not until I got into that bed and was trying to get to sleep, and she reminded me that I was 14, then it really struck home, this idea of experiencing the world as a 14-year-old itself is so arduous, but with all of these horrific experiences going on as well, I don't quite know how she managed it and came through it.
She has a very sort of clear perspective on what happened. Did she worry at all that reenacting it with you would trigger those experiences again?
She was pretty confident it wouldn't. And I don't think you can have any certainty around this stuff. But I was happy to take her lead on that. And there were moments during the filming of it, I think she found elements more difficult than others, particularly hearing those quite nasty voices. And I think actually, because I was listening to those voices, she was worried about me and the effects on me. So she was checking in with me to see if I was okay during filming, which was very sweet. But yeah, no, she seemed to be okay. She seems to be have an amazing maturity to her reflection, which I found incredibly impressive, and yeah, I felt like I learned a great deal from her.
It feels like each of the 5 experiences have been different kinds of learning. Now that you've finished shooting all 5 films with 5 directors, what are your kind of main reflections on the difference between them and the nature of the project now that you're starting to edit?
Well, I think the similarities between them are really interesting, and the sort of state that I've been occupying and feeling. I think the bridges for me, are the points where I feel I can make an empathetic relationship, are emotional. It's those feeling-based ways of empathizing. And those have been fairly similar throughout. So I feel like as a basis for relating and a basis for empathizing, I feel quite tuned in there. And I feel quite sure of that, actually.
It's interesting because the 5 individuals couldn't have been more different, but your approach to them all has been entirely consistent. You've listened in the same way to each of them. You've thought creatively about each person's story, and you've been entirely consistent in the face of huge difference.
Well, it was easy to be consistent because the only thing I had to do really was to turn up and listen. I mean, in terms of planning, it was mainly in their hands where these films went. I mean, there's a lot of planning going on in terms of the filming and what happens during the day, but in terms of the raw narrative and where they want to take it and what they want to get across, they're in charge of that. So I had to be very alive to that. And in a way, that's all I could do, to stay in the moment with them, really, and try and follow them and keep up with them and be something for them, actually.
It's certainly been true in the shoots, but it's a little different when you and Tilly are editing. When obviously the films take shape from all the raw material that you've collected.
The film language can easily take over. And then we're making a film. And I've never really felt like we were setting out to make films. I felt like we were setting out to make moments, make a physical space where we could find some language and some ways to connect. And that in itself has felt like a performance, really. So I think retaining that sense of liveness and that sense of failure and clumsiness and all of that stuff has felt quite important as well, to resist the seductive nature of filmic language.
There is a difference in this film which marks it out from the others, to do with the documentation that Lucy kept. Say a little bit about that.
Lucy remembered everything so vividly, mainly because it wasn't that long ago, but also because she wrote down everything that the voices said to her. And she drew all the hallucinations and the figures that she saw. So she kept this diary, and she brought this diary into the meetings with me. And that was the kind of resource that we used, and that's why I felt like we could go into such detail with this.
I mean, that could have been viewed as a sort of first attempt at getting them out of her head and into the world, but what you've done takes it further.
Yeah, I mean, her putting these, you can't see them there, but she put some pictures up on the wall. She talked about putting the pictures up on the wall as a way of bringing things into reality, out of her head into the world. And that really resonated with me, because that was a fundamental motivation to do the project, really, to get it out of the head, normalise it, get it out into the world, and let it be seen and experienced by others.
And therefore not as dangerous, not as potent.
Yeah, and not as isolating as lonely. It seems so many of these experiences have been about not being able to share them.
Did Lucy share those drawings with anybody when she made them?
No, I think she put them up at night and took them down before anyone came in the morning.
So this is actually a very brave thing for her to have done. She's going to be sharing it on quite a large scale.
Yeah, amazingly brave to share her diary and all the details of this. And, I was really worried about this, the exposing nature of this. I mean, these are secrets that she's kept for a long time. But I think part of her recovery, in a way, I don't want to put words into her mouth, but I think it is about, and that's why she was so keen to do this, is about sharing this, opening it up, and allowing others in.
I think that's generally the case with all 5 films in different ways. But we'll talk about that another time.